Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Series Strategy Gamer and I'm very excited because we are starting a new series of Democracy for today. So we're going to continue what we did last time and we're going to turn a country on its head and just make it into the reverse version of itself. So last time we played as Germany, turned it ultra-capitalist. Before that we played as the United States and turned it into an ultra-ecological superpower. This time we're going to play as the United Kingdom and we're going to turn it communist, and I'm going to talk about what that means in a second over here. We're going to start with a standard setup over here. I'm not going to change any of the settings. We're going to play the game as intended, and we're going to be the Socialist Revolutionary Party over here. Now, I'm going to briefly explain how this game works. So this is the main screen. You've got 7 policy areas, from economy to welfare to foreign policy, transport, law and order, public services, and tax. Each of these areas has a minister. These guys do feed into the political power level that we are seeing here in the middle, and that is what is used to change and introduce new laws. Laws are these little things that have a green or red thingy around here, and they do feed into various different things. So for example, if we look at, let's say, police or armed police, traffic cameras, body cameras, you can see body cameras here is reducing, so these little red arrows, corruption is also reducing tensions, but it's also going to the left over here, and that is the opinion of the conservatives are going down. The opinion of state employees and trade unionists are going down due to body cameras, but liberals do like it, and that's quite a kind of typical. There are sort of pros and cons to everything. Some of these areas do also influence these blue things, which are just basically variables in your country. So you can see corruption here is not a policy, but it's influenced by various policies. It also influences various other factors denoted by these blue things, and there are also these red things that are not ideal for our country. So these do come into play when there's something very specifically bad happening, like organized crime over here. They are starting to become an issue if that value is driven beyond the start trigger, and they stop if they are going below this stop trigger. And it's generally a good idea to try to address these things. Now, what do I mean by we are trying to get this country to be communist? Now, we are going to go actually for an achievement run over here, and we are going to go for various achievements in a single run, and we want to achieve all of them. So we want to get to Viva la Revolution, so that is meaning that there's a lot of socialists in our country and they're pretty happy. There's also needs to be a very high quality for us to unlock this achievement. We also want to go to top Marx down here, of course, because that's proper nice communism. It's kind of similar, very high happiness of socialists, very high quality, and a couple of other things like ban private education, ban private healthcare, all of these things, that'd be kind of lovely. You might have already seen it. There's also Intergalactic Socialism, so that is most certainly something that we want. And that will obviously require us to have a space program and everything. But, you know, that's very typical. I mean, the Soviets were one of the first, the first nation to have a proper galactic program. So, well, intergalactic is maybe a little bit too much, but at least they had a very great, actually, space program. So, yeah, we're going to go for that. And then there are a couple of other ones that are, well, there's Workers' Wonderland. That would be lovely to achieve. If we can get there, that's a little bit more targeted towards the trade unionists rather than the socialists. But let's see whether we can get that one in this run as well. And that's all very nice and socialist, you know. That's just very left-wing. But we want to go a little bit beyond that. We want to be proper communist, like Soviet Union communist over here. And therefore, we are also going to go and try to get the secret state and the all-seeing state in this single run over here. Now, at this point, I should note that this is not a political commentary. Understand, please, that we are playing a game over here and that I want to introduce that. I know a lot of people dislike the capitalist run because it's capitalism. This is socialism. I don't advocate for the UK to be socialist. I just want to play the game over here and see what's going on. That being said, there will be a couple of political hints or comments in this playthrough. So, let's see where we stand on the goals. So firstly, we can sort this here by membership, and you can see these sort of little background here is indicating the membership of all of this. You can see there's a lot of capitalists currently, and basically the game works, how the game works is on this scale, everyone has sort of various influences. You can see the happiness distribution. So there are a lot of people here, like Charlie Ward. He is partially a capitalist, partially he's going to be influenced by other factors. But on this one level, everyone is either a capitalist or a socialist. Where are you socialists? There. You can see socialists currently are actually kind of happy in the UK, which is kind of interesting. But there are not that many of them. It's only 40% of the population is socialist over here, whereas the rest is capitalist. Capitalists are currently not that happy. So this is going to be one of the big shifts that we need to make over here to turn a lot of these 60% here from capitalist to socialist. One big challenge. Now, the other big challenge is of course going to be equality. We do need to bring up equality. It's not looking that terribly bad, but there will be certain obstacles along the way. We also need to address, I think, some of these issues that are currently lying around. Like, let's look at the red things that we've got currently. So we've got organized crime. That's a bad thing. It's just not making sure that we are being seen as strong leader. It's feeding into violent crime, which sort of everyone hates. So that's not great. And there's an issue with that. Then we've got the typical stuff that all industrial nations have, respiratory diseases and obesity, very high obesity actually, which is specifically very bad for us, because one area where the United Kingdom, even though it's quite capitalist, actually is kind of socialist, is state health services. So the National Health Service, one of the very things Brits tend to be very proud of, is relatively highly funded over here. So a lot of stuff is being provided by the state over here, and obesity has the effect of increasing these costs by 20%. Now if we look at our budget, you can see in terms of expenditures, actually the state health service is one of the biggest areas where we're spending money over here. It's taking up 20% of our budget, and it's hugely driving our deficit. And if we could get rid of the obesity, that would help a lot. It's also driving healthcare demand, so that is again driving up costs. So yeah, I would definitely like for obesity to go away. We also have lastly the issue of the uncompetitive economy over here, largely due to our low productivity and some of the things that are not great as well. So that is something that ultimately we want to address as well. Even though this is only making capitalists unhappy, which we don't care about that much, but it's also driving down GDP, and we do need a lot of GDP, because let's talk about our aims in terms of policies that we want to introduce. Now, there are a lot of things that we want to introduce. A couple of new laws, and generally they all be sort of the socialist policies that you would expect. Let's look at the new ones. We ultimately want to go for a lot of the welfare stuff, including, if possible, at some point, maybe UBI, Universal Basic Income. I don't know whether we're going to achieve that. It's very expensive to introduce that, but we most certainly want to nationalize the economy. So state energy company, state airlines, state broadcasters, state healthcare services, state housing, state pensions, state post services, state rails, state schools, state telecom, state water companies. All of that is something that we want. We also want to very much highlight the role of labor unions and just generally push everyone in that direction. And of course we want to go for the law and order stuff, so specifically for items like secret courts, wiretapping, and so on. So these are things that we want to do. And all of that will just basically go to the goal of increasing socialist membership. Now, let's start. Let's start introducing some laws over here. Now, the first thing I want to do actually over here is I want to change our cabinet, because one of the issues when playing the United Kingdom, for specifically these achievements that we're looking at, is if we look at our ministers over here, you can see this guy here has sympathies towards the self-employed capitalists. This guy is okay, but there are a lot of people here who are actually in favor of either self-employed, religious patriots, or even capitalists. So we're going to reshuffle our cabinet. We're going to just fire everyone here for a second. That's going to cost 10 political power, but it's going to set us up a little bit better for the future, because there's not that many people who we can actually hire here and have them go and be effective. So let's start left to right. I did look at that before the episode so that it's a little bit more effective, because as you can see, a lot of these people here have capitalist tendencies, and they will not be happy with the stuff that we're going to implement. So yeah, that's going to be an issue there. But the first person here that we're going to hire for foreign policy is actually a good one, and that is Edith. So if I can find Edith, that'd be lovely. Where are you? Foreign policy, Edith. Edith Evans over here. She's sympathetic of the retired and socialist. I think she's going to fit into the team very, very nicely. Her loyalty isn't that high for now, but I think it will improve over time. Welfare, I think we've also got a good one. Lily, should be Lily Roberts over here, also socialist, retired. I like her. She's going to be happy as well. And then in terms of the economy, we are going to look at the first one. I think that is a little bit more on the fence, and that is Claudia. Claudia is... where are you? Claudia Green. Claudia Green, she's in favor of the trade unionists and the motorists. Notice that she's also extremely good at campaigning. So once election day comes, that is going to be very nice. But we will need to make her happy in the long run. So let's see how that is going to work. Then for taxes, I think we need to go for Joy. Joy Phillips over here. And she's the one that I struggle with the most. She's for the religious and the conservative groups. Now, either of these are not going to be extremely happy, but conservatives will actually be fine because of all of the security measures that we're going to introduce. So just maybe that is going to work. And notice that this is conservatism in the sense of public security, police funding, all of that, which is actually compatible to capitalism. So it's not traditional left-wing maybe, but I think it's fine. Over here for public services, we need to find Bill. He's a trade unionist, and for the youth, also extremely good at campaigning. Yeah, let's hire him. Law and order will be Julie. Julie, where are you? We are going to hire you. Julie Simmons, state employees, environmentalists. I think she's going to be okay. And in terms of transport, another one that I'm not super happy about, but what can we do? There's a very limited selection of people who are actually good at this job and not outright capitalists. So yeah, pretty much the only person that I could find who's not just like super weird is Wendy Thomas over here. Religious motorists? I don't know. But yeah, let's take her. And that's fine. So we've got a proper cabinet now, and that's okay-ish. Let's also start introducing the first laws over here. And the first one that I would like to introduce is, I think, under economy, and that is just let's celebrate the fact that we have been elected in, and we're going to go for the Labour bank holiday over here. You can already see the effects. It's costing us only 3 political power to introduce that. That's not much. It's going to depress GDP, so the economy, that's not great, but people are going to have a day off, so yeah, go figure. But importantly, it's going to have 2 important effects. It's going to make socialists a little bit more happy. Yeah, that's nice. It's also going to increase socialism to a very large degree. So that means more people, 3% of the population, are going to swing from capitalist to socialist. I think that's a fairly lovely idea. Let's do it. Yeah, it is going to cost us some money, but that is fine. We do have 6 political power left. I don't think there's much that we can do with 6 political power. We're certainly not going to do something like the business startup campaign, because that would depress socialism, and we want to increase that. We want to increase that by a lot, actually. Anything else that we want to do then right away? Well, we could do something like keep the country tidy. It's nice to do something for the environment, specifically because these 2 issues here are kind of important. Obesity, we talked about, that is increasing our costs for healthcare, and we do need some wiggle room with our economy to nationalize all of these industries. And respiratory diseases is decreasing productivity, but more importantly, parents really hate that. And we do need to be re-elected probably at least once for us to get all of the achievements. That's a quarter of the population here that has some very big influences here on their happiness. Minus 40% on 25% of the 27% of the population. That's pretty harsh. So yeah, we want to get rid of that. And to address that, let's actually look at that briefly. So I think it's fairly well known because it's pretty much there all the time, but it's being driven largely by tobacco usage, car usage, and the environment. The environment in turn is also being driven by car usage and GDP. So before we address the GDP, I think we want to probably try to bring down car usage a little bit, and thereby both directly and indirectly affect respiratory diseases over here. Let's go to transport. And the items that I want to do then is I would very much like to do both bicycle subsidies. It's reducing obesity. It's also going to decrease car usage, rail usage, bus usage. All of that is going to come down a little bit. It's going to also increase health, so that's fine. And then we're also going to encourage people to do that by a cycling campaign. Let's implement that as well. It's also going to decrease obesity a little bit. Health is coming up and car usage is coming down, so that's lovely to see. And lastly, we're going to do the car pooling campaign, or let's actually do the Telecommuting Initiative. Commuters are going to like that, trade unions are going to like that, parents are going to like that. What's not to like? Well, there's one thing not to like, and that is the telecom industry. Let's look at that in a second, but let's implement it first. So we're going to introduce that. It's going to drive down car usage by a lot, so that's very, very nice, and that might have a very good impact over here. But why do I not like the fact that the telecom industry is being brought up? It should be somewhere around here, isn't it? Yeah, telecoms industry. So you can see that is going to be increased by the Telecommuting Initiative. Fine, that does make sense, but it also has the negative effect of bringing down socialism, because we have a free private industry that is around over here. That is going to decrease our trade unionists, it's going to decrease our trade unionist happiness, and it's going to decrease the amount of socialists in our country. So that's not the greatest, but we will need to counteract that at some point. We don't have any political power left, so let's turn it over to the next quarter over here and see how things are looking. So GDP going down a little bit due to the bank holiday, that's fine. Health not really changing. Education is actually kind of low, so we need to maybe address that at some point. Unemployment actually kind of high here, and I think that's largely due to the fact that GDP went down. So yeah, we will need to address that. There's a situation that is imminent, but honestly the trend here is fine, so I don't think we need to care about that much. Budget is not looking great, so we have a deficit here of 8 billion per quarter. That's actually kind of harsh. That's actually really harsh. So our expenditures went up a little bit, our income did go down as our economy went down, and that's partially driven by our own effects, but also by the global economy, which is coming down here. So yeah, not great, but what can we do? We also have a dilemma over here, and that is the oil drilling opportunity. Oil companies are keen. Do we want to allow drilling, or do we want to prevent drilling? I'm a little bit on the fence here, because of course in the West a lot of socialist leftist parties are very closely aligned with the environmentalists. Now that's not necessarily true in proper communist countries. Now the Soviet Union was, and Russia continues to be, one of the biggest oil exporters in the world, so I'm somewhat leaning to go for allow drilling over here, simply to that our economy isn't collapsing entirely. On the other hand, both obesity and respiratory diseases very much strongly depend on the economy. So you know what, we're actually going to prevent the drilling over here. Capitalists dislike that, environmentalists do like it. That's fine. I think we also have a couple of ministers here who are actually in favor of that. And we're generating a very nice 21 political power per turn already. Good. So first step's done over here. Just very small stuff for now. It's only the Labour bank holiday really that we've introduced, and a little bit of cycling, which is nice. That's going to drive down car usage over time, but all of this is going to take quite a while here to become effective. You can see this is going to take a year. The car tax and all of these subsidies here are going to take a very, very long time. So that is most definitely not enough. And obesity is such a big drain on our economy here. And I think we do need to address that as the proper socialist that we are, right? So let's look at, is it welfare or is it public services? I'm always slightly confused about that. Nope, let's go over here. And let's introduce free school meals. What's not to like? Yeah, we're just going to hand out free school meals as a redistributing wealth measure. It's going to increase health. It's going to decrease obesity, which is nice. Parents are going to like that, and they're going to be more of them. The poor people are going to like that. Socialists are liking it, but there are not that many of them, so it's not increasing their membership. That's not great. But also poverty is going to decrease. obesity going to decrease. Lovely, I like it. That sounds like a fabulous idea. And then we are going to look at the economy over here, because we want to introduce or increase the role of the unions. And I would like to hand out some subsidies to you, but I can't because it's just not... we don't really have enough political power for now, so that's unfortunate. I would have liked to do something there already. Can we do anything else that is sensible at this very moment? There are a lot of things that are theoretically very nice, like free eye tests and so, but I think the most important items that we have are going to be to increase socialism, because that is going to have a very long-term impact, and it's going to last quite a while to get more socialists, and it's going to be quite complicated to do that in due time. Public services, how about the state postal services? National, no, that's not national anthem. Economy then? State postal services? No, nowhere? That's unfortunate. I would have hoped to get that. We could go for the telecom company. It would increase socialism, which is nice. It's not very expensive. It's kind of expensive, but not tremendously so. Trade unions membership and happiness would go up, so I like that. More importantly, because it's depressing the telecom industry, it would also have a double effect on socialism here. A direct one and an indirect one. Poverty and unemployment would go down. So honestly, that's actually kind of nice to see. And we might actually want to go for this right away. Okay, let's do it. We have exactly 11 political power here, so it's going to cost us quite a bit to nationalize the industry. But I think it's going to have very nice effects over here. Corruption is going to go up a little bit. That's not so nice. Internet speed is going to go up. That's good. Socialism is going to come up by another 3 percentage points. Lovely. Unemployment dropping. Trade unionists, more of them, and happier people there. That's good to see. Capitalists dislike it, but yeah, they will be gone anyway. And that's fine. Let's go with this. So that's going to have a very large impact, because let's again go to the telecom industry, the private telecom industry. It should be somewhere around over here. That's the... I'm looking for a little bit of money and like a telecom sign. Is it really not anywhere over here? State telecom, internet speed. Okay, you just replaced the entire thing. Yeah, so it's just gone. Okay, fine. I didn't know it would completely disappear, but that's fine. We have no political power, so let's go ahead to the next turn over here and see what's going to happen. So GDP dropping down a little bit. I think it's due to the global economy still being in downturn, so the blue one over here. That's not great, because it's going to decrease our deficit over time, and that's just not good. Health is coming up nicely here, though, due to the free school meals. That's lovely to see. Security briefing, let's look at that, because yeah, the Federation of Entrepreneurs is starting to look a little bit threatening, and I do think at some point the invisible hand is going to be a problem, so we will need to address that at some point. We have a question about extraditing a terror suspect over here. Now, we can keep him here. I think this is largely a question between liberals, of whom we've got currently a lot, and conservatives, of whom we've got fewer. So let's keep him here, and we're not going to extradite him. Okay, patriots are not going to like that, but that's fine. That's not a big issue over here. So let's look at the... Yeah, okay, this is starting to come down a little bit, largely I think due to the fact that our car usage is starting to drop. We could do more on the transport sector, but I want to stay a little bit focused here on our core mission of turning capitalist. Of turning communist, sorry. So, one of the issues that we objectively have in this country is the organized crime rate. So that is driving up violent crime. It's decreasing our image as a strong leader. So it's just not very good. It's also decreasing tourism, lifespan, retired people hate it. Everyone actually hates it. So this would be kind of nice to bring down a little bit. Now there are many ways how we could do that in the law and order segment. So for example, we could go for a drug enforcement agency, so specifically target the drug business, and that would depress organized crime. So that's lovely, but I do think wiretapping would be a very, very lovely thing that we could do against organized crime, right? So that's perfectly lovely. And ultimately, you know, if it helps us to keep socialism high, that might also be a fabulous idea. We can't afford that for now. We do need 26 political power. We're only generating 20, but we can save up to 40. So I'm kind of tempted to actually just not do much this time around. We can do a little bit though. So let's see what we might want to do here. We could go for state rail subsidies. Don't think that is something that we want to do right now. Do we want to do anything in terms of public services? Education, productivity, there are a lot of good policies. But again, I want to start out with policies that do give us a long-term benefit to the amount of socialists. And I think workers on boards is going to have a very huge positive effect on that. Trade unionist membership is going to come up. Trade unionist numbers are going to come up. The working week, productivity is going to actually make some matters worse if that goes down. But I think it's a very nice long-term policy. So let's implement that. Let's max it out. It's going to really, really screw with the capitalists, but socialists love it. Trade unions love it. So that's also going to have a huge positive impact on some of our ministers and going to give us more political power, so that's fine. Their membership is going to skyrocket. That's great to see. And again, 5 percentage points more socialist. That's also very, very lovely. And it's actually a free policy. So that's just very lovely in that terms as well. Good. I like it. That does leave us with a lot of political power. Let's actually... I don't think there's any specific new policy that I want to introduce right now. I do think we have selective schooling set up somewhere. And that should be around in this sector down here. Selective schooling. Yeah, we could try to lower that a little bit. And that would drive up socialism a little bit. And I think it might be a nice idea to try to bring that down somewhat. But it's such a gradual shift. Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily the greatest. What we could do though is go for more clean energy subsidies. Now that is relatively expensive, but it's relatively inexpensive in terms of political power, and the environment is going to benefit hugely from that, which is actually very nice because of the respiratory diseases and our issues with the parents. So that does really, really need to come down. So that's a very small political power shift. Recycling, how about you? Yeah, that's a little bit more expensive in terms of political power, so I don't want to do it right now. Yeah. Labour laws, you need to come up over time, but we can't really do that now. That's a big shift in terms of spending. So, yeah, I think we are more or less alright over here. Let's go for the next one and see where we're going to go. Oh, credit rating downgraded. That's not great. But sort of to be expected with the spending that we're doing over here and the deficit at £20 billion. That's really, really harsh. So we will need to introduce some new taxes to tackle that. We're getting a disputed territory from another country. That's lovely. Some people do like that. We don't really care that much, but nice. Okay, GDP nearly in free fall over here. And unemployment is starting to rise due to that. So that's not really great. But at least some of the other issues are starting to look a little bit better over here. That is nice to see. Yeah, but unemployment, that's really not great. On the other hand, our popularity is actually kind of nicely going there. So let's see. Yeah, obesity just ever so gradually coming down. Respiratory diseases as well. It's going to take a long, long time to actually get that. How about law and order? Can we get the wiretapping? Yes. You know what? Let's introduce that. Nobody really likes that. But if we can tackle organized crime, I think that's fairly lovely. Liberals are going to actually hate that. So that's not great. But It's also going to decrease the amount of liberals, so that on the other hand is nice, because ultimately we want to introduce all of these harsh measures and we need to defend the revolution. So yeah, let's actually go with that. It's going to depress organized crime by 21 percentage points over here, which I think is not enough to bring us down really to below the stop trigger. So ultimately we might also want to think about the intelligence services over here. The issue is, if we're going to increase that, liberals are going to hate us a lot, and it's not that their membership is decreasing quite as much. So we will need to be a little bit more concerned about that, because for now there is a lot of liberals here, and we do need to address that a little bit more. So we want to bring that down here. Let's see what we can do in that respect. But for now we are producing a decent amount of political power here, and we are starting to very gradually shift the membership here of the socialists to a slightly better percentage level than we are currently seeing. It's going to take a while for that to come into effect, 2 years in fact for the workers on the boards, but ultimately I think that's very nice, and the happiness is coming up as well. So very lovely to see that they are actually extremely happy over here, and I think some of these people here do get some very, very positive effects over here. Your experience is also increasing, which is going to help, and that is very lovely. But there's a huge deficit looming, and we do need to address that in some way. On the other hand, that is going to have to wait until next time. For now, thank you very much for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Do leave a like and all of that. Do let me know what policies you would like to be tested in this little Let's Play here. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing you guys next time.